Dear experts, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. I welcome you to our next day. And today we will have expert day. So I just see several our colleagues are joining now. So I would recommend what we will probably will wait for maybe 1-2 minutes and we will really start. So before we are starting, I would recommend what we will again will follow our rules for the meetings. Just a second, it will appear in your screens. Checks. Okay, probably have to restart my presentation again. Just a second. Okay, I hope it works. So I would ask everyone of you mute your microphone. If you have questions, please use this chat section. If you have opportunity to use video, please use it. And please change your name according to the recommendation as you see on your screen. And today we have also the Chinese interpretation. So if you have difficulty to understand English, but you are very familiar with Chinese, just choose the appropriate channel. Okay, let's start today meetings. So today we will host this meeting to two of us. It's me and Anna Korotkova, who is Deputy of Chief Expert. And our topic will be today for experts. So as I mentioned in the beginning, if you are students, please disconnect just because that's for tomorrow we will have a session from you. Today is only for experts. Okay, yesterday I tried to show to you several greetings from our colleagues, and I hope today it will work. So we started with let's say official part. And as I mentioned yesterday, we are so good, so good growing up. What's WorldSkills International recommended our BIM skills to be official at the next WorldSkills World Championship, and they even appointed the skill competition manager. It's the person who right now will be responsible for the skill preparation, for the competition preparation for that day. That person is here, is Malachi Nephew from TU Dublin, and I hope we will hear his recommendation.
Hello, everybody. My name is Malachy Matthews, and I am a senior lecturer in the School of Architecture at the Technological University in Dublin, Ireland. I'm also the Skills Competition Manager for Building Information Modeling for the World Skills event to be held in Shanghai in 2021. So I'm delighted to have this opportunity to introduce myself and to welcome you to this Future Skills Camp. I hope you will use this opportunity to enrich your experience in information modeling and to develop your skill set in this really exciting new digital competition. And building information modeling will be a full event skill in Shanghai 2021, and will provide a fantastic opportunity for competitors from all over the world to pit their skills against each other. And it should be a fantastically enjoyable event. So you make the most of this opportunity this week, and I hope you have a wonderful time, and I look forward to meeting some of you in Shanghai in 2021. Good luck with the competition, and all the best to you all.
So, okay, it was Malachy Matthew who is responsible for preparation, for the skill preparation to our competition in Shanghai. Okay, let's go forward. In the beginning, I would like to what is the agenda for today. So in the beginning, I would really have a follow-up of our yesterday meeting. We had yesterday introduction day, and I guess it could be that you could get a lot of information from yesterday. So when we go to today's day objectives, we will look through several important documents. Some of them we already touched yesterday, some others we will discuss today, and after we will come to the skill camp test project, a marking scheme for our skill camp training. And before we will answer your question, we would discuss about next steps, what we should do for the competition in this Sunday and Saturday afternoon. Again, if you are a student, please disconnect just because that is really the training session for experts. So thank you. Okay, follow up our yesterday meeting. So to me, from yesterday meeting, the most exciting fact was what we have 14 countries in our training camp, and all together. So I mean, it's you experts and your students. We are 140 participants, but that number is growing. So as I yesterday we got several extended from students from several countries, just because when they did application, didn't realize we should submit application for the students. So I guess we in reality have right now more than 130 participants. And that is really very exciting fact to me. If I reflecting back yesterday when we before we finish our training session, I shared with you several, let's say, to-do list. So I mean, make sure you're ready to a skill camp. So I mean, your competitors, your students in software and environment. Secondly, what we discuss about the agreement about common data environment, about the training schedule, and about the communication. And lastly, it's about session tendency. And I see we have about 30 people in our call. So I mean, we are close to be really, yeah, very well right now 30 people here. So we really, the expert majority are on our call now. But what is call is recorded. It is a live stream on YouTube. So I mean, if you are not able to attend, you could after check that recording and really see what we discuss. So in that case, I would ask you to share your thought. How, first of all, are you really, uh, yeah, uh, when we're talking about this follow-up, how much of you already check with your students if they're ready for the competition? So I would propose to use a chat. So please make the plus sign if you already check and you are sure your students are ready from software and hardware environment. Please makes a really plus into the chat section. Okay, Bruno was the first who mentioned what's were ready and asked me followed with okay. So it looks only 3 countries are ready for competition. Uh, okay, right now much more coming. Okay, okay, yes. So I mean, at least I saw Brazil, Singapore, Taiwan, Poland here, Tunisia here. So Malaysia is also here. So I mean, that's really China is also joined. So I mean, that's great. So I mean, if you are not needed, it's not okay. It's not so bad just because we have some time, but really make sure what we discussed yesterday. Uh, the PDF from presentation is available and I shared it's with you already yesterday. The recording is available on YouTube. It's the same link like we proposed to your students. So I mean, it's you free to go there and really uh, check it. The second question is about common data environment, training schedule, and communication. So I mean, again, I would like to ask you again, make a pluses if you already did everything with that. If not, so I mean, you could not mention it, or you can do a minus. So from a second question, I just saw what Jacek from Poland is already did. Uh, okay, so I mean, I already got several questions from you about that particular part. It's again, we will discuss it today. Uh, uh, how you can organize it, just because you see we have a training skill camp. It means we have much more flexibility comparing to real competition where there are very strict rules. But here we are training and we will discuss about that topics today. And I would also ask you if for example you will not get answers from me or from Anna during today calls, just don't stay with that question. Just feel free to share with question through the chat, and we will answer it. Because yesterday we answered all questions. So I mean, we have the same goal for today. And the last session, what I ask you to join, and I see what you are also here. So I mean, it works. Tomorrow, the same links, but it will be for students. So you are free to join, but it's really, we will have more or less the same, but we will not be so deep into the marking. We will really discuss uh, high level information with them. So I mean, that is more or less, and that's information which really relevant to them. So today you will get much more deeper information, much more focusing, and I really, my goal is today to show to you the principles of the wall skills competition, the documentation which you will we will really work with if you will organize it. Maybe even to show to you some paperwork which we have to do sorry, during the competition. But what is really the part of our job as of our role as an expert. And if you will see it, and if you will do it on your own in your own country, you will be familiar, you will be prepared to do it. So my goal is really what you will be aware, you will understand what is about and why it's necessary, and after you can do it without any problems to do it on your own in your country. And Anna will have more interesting part, because she will discuss about the task for the our skill camp, and she will also discuss with you about the market scheme. So uh, I hope each of you already have opportunity to download uh, task for the skill camp, which I shared in our channel. Thank you to Leon what you mentioned, what instead of a real link, it was embedded some kind PNG file, and you inform me, so I provided a normal good links, and you could download it. It's no problem if you didn't read it. So I mean, we will discuss it what is about during the today calls. So that's why I would just really ask what each of you will download, but please don't share right now with your students. And we will discuss about that in a minute, how we will do it. Okay. So today objectives. Uh, so I mean, right now, our skill camp schedule more or less goes in the way how the normal competition is organized. So I mean, if we're talking about the days, we have more or less the World Championship schedule, and uh, the same we have also on big competition the same days. One day is for expert, one day for competitors, and then several days for the training. If we're talking about the expert days and the coming to the competition venue, the most important thing what will really meet our experts who will be also in our training place. Uh, Everyone will get training and health security and environment, and that health and safety training instruction will be given to participants every day, every morning. We will have again this instruction. When it's come to introduction training, so I mean, again, each experts will go through, yeah, it's called mandatory training, and I get some of that training from last year and put some part of that trainings, that presentation into today's our meetings. And then familiarization of the test project, familiarization with market scheme, clarification assessment criteria. And the last, what this day is finishing usually, is assigning the expert's role. So I mean, all of that we will discuss today, and on the end of the day, you will really it will be clear to you what will happen, what does it mean the marking scheme, what does it mean the infrastructure list, etc. So right now, a little bit about documentation. So documentation. Uh, uh, you probably, okay, I guess, I hope every one of you already read the skill camp for BIM skill documentation which I provided to you. I saw several questions from you about the documentation and what we, for example, the documentation has some kind of either limitation or not, but in our skill camp, you goes with different rules. Why it happens, I will right now explain to you. So, I mean, official competition documentation consists of competition rules. So, what is really guidelines for the competition? And uh, you will see what each, it could be really competition for the WorldSkills World Championship, and it could be competition rules for our national finals. It could be some kind rules for our skill camp, and that all competition, that rules can be different from each other. So I mean, so that's why it sometimes uh, region several confuses, and sometimes it's even difficult to us to really to find the correct solution or resolution of some situation, just because we should really clearly understand which competition we right now participate in which rules will be applied. But I mean, for the WorldSkills World Championship, it will be special rules from WorldSkills International, as usually they provide it in advance. So I guess at least 3 months ahead, that information will be shared. But that is really the guidelines for everyone, how we should yeah, do and work during the competition. Secondly, what will come, it's yeah, healthy safety and environment guidelines. It's what I already mentioned, the procedure which happens every morning, every day, and the aim of that exercise, what it will be, no damages, it will be really problem-free competition. And that is really important because we are working with the students, with the children. So that's why it will be no damages, let's say, on the working place. We, as a BIM competition, working with computers, so it's maybe not so critical, but you know, there are many really uh, 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 skills which required welding or metal cutting or etc., where it could be dangerous. So that's why it's very important for all skills. It will be really very safe competition. So next it's come is technical description, and as you see, it's for each skill has its own uh, technical description. uh, BIM skill, yesterday shows to you, has its own, which already approved by WorldSkills International, and it's again, it can be very differently from one skills to another. What is there, the rules, etc. So that's why it's again, it's some kind of documents which I really ask each of you to download, to read, and if you're doing your own competition in your country, try to use as much as possible correlation to that document. Okay. Next, we have a test project, and we will discuss it today. Okay, sometimes it has skill-specific rules, and that comes if the common rules is too broad, and you need to have a narrow rules. So that's why it's come a special section, skill-specific rules. But I mean, if I reflecting back to the Kazan competition, we didn't have skill-specific rules just because it was more or less the same. We had some the clarification for health, safety, and environment guidelines. That's all what we had. There is additional point which called infrastructure list. Again, we will touch about that today, and you probably didn't hear about that. What does it mean? But I mean, if we want ensure our students will is showing best what they can, it should be really appropriate environment for that. So all these computers, software, etc., all our requirements are in the infrastructure list. And okay, skills management plan is something which is described our schedule. Okay, that's probably all, but it's really part of a test project is the assessment scheme. I don't know why it's not here proposed here, but I will really show it about it later. So about technical description, as I mentioned, we have a technical description for our skills, and from left side, that is the full description for the from low skills to rational. For our, let's say, about the specific rules for our skills, for our skill camp, we develop such description, which is from the right side, and I share that with you. So I mean, so that's because it's a little bit not so broad like description for the skills. We really specify what we will assess, what we will do, and which rules will apply. So that's why if you come into to some competition, for example, if you will come, if you will want to join our national final, so I mean, it's also possible to join, but you should really read in advance our technical description because it varies from the international one. But if you read it, you really you could understand what we are asking, how to prepare to the competition, etc. So I mean, that is really just common sense. So if we say it about technical description, the second what I mentioned, it's about infrastructure list. So I mean, each skill here has his own infrastructure list. Here's an example where which one of our future skills is called rapid prototyping, prepared for Kazan. And you see it's called it's had the name FS 0.1, and we as a youngest had 0FS15. And but more or less um, each skills specify, for example, here is you see they specify what the computers for each competitors, and they specify which one should be okay. So it's also not only computers, but even chairs. And even you see we have very interesting example, brush for cleaning. So I mean, exactly in your country, if you will launch it, you will need to specify table, chairs, internet access, the network in your competition area, all what's necessary, you will do it. And I mean, that could looks like differently. For example, that was the original one, infrastructure list. When I came to when BIM skills was appointed, we already have not so nice Excel sheet, but that's how our how infrastructure list looks like for our skills for Kazan. So I mean, you see, it's already, but it's more or less the same information. So it's, for example, for competitor area, we will need for each competitor one computer, one chair, one table, etc. So we all specify here, and after there is a special team by WorldSkills who are dealing with that. And if you are doing that in your country, it's more or less you also provide such specification to run the competition. For example, you need you're planning a competition for 5 participants, so it means you should have 5 working places for the competitors. You need to have some places for you if you'll be chief expert. So I mean, where you can really prepare necessary the documents, protocols, etc., and go so on. So usually there is a special briefing zone. here is, for example, is also mentioned briefing area, etc. So maybe you necessary, so you need some place for experts. For example, here is called skill management room. And during Kazan, we do it very extensively. If we, for example, need to discuss something between the experts, we all went to that room and we could discuss without disturbing our students who was on the competition place. So that's why each that item has some meanings. And as we discussed with WorldSkills Russia, if you need to prepare a competition for your own country, you can ask us and we could help you to figure out with infrastructure list, etc. So what is concerning the infrastructure list? So it's really necessary documents what you will be ensure everything is okay. And here you see also some software, Revit, BIM, Adobe Acrobat, Microsoft Office, etc. So with again, one of the important documents is WorldSkills Code of Ethics and Conduct. Yes, I mentioned about it. Here again, some reminder about that, because that's what WorldSkills International is really requested. And last year, they even did a special assessment for each experts who came to Kazan. We had a special assessment how if they really understood this code of ethics and conduct, etc. So I mean that will be necessary to you to know the principles. So I mean principles is very easy. If I really make it very informative, it's really what for us, what we are experts, and for principles how we should behave to each other. It could happen we could maybe update that code of ethics and conduct, but in principle this code of ethics and conduct has several, let's say, parts. One is refers to board of WorldSkills International, another to competitor. There is a section that refers to experts. So what is our principles which we really recommend to follow, and at least in Kazan, I would say every of us followed that rules, and to me it was really pleasure to work with our expert, because every one of them was honest, was fair, was objective, and was cooperative. So that's why to me it was really pleasure to be on the competition area and to lead that our skills. And I really expect what we will follow, what good atmosphere which we had in Kazan. In Shanghai, we have the same good understanding to each other, respectful, objective, honest, and cooperative. Okay, go forward. If we discuss about the infrastructure list, about code and conduct, and if you will be really the chief expert, first document which you will appear with first, either to the competition place, to the competition venue, even before any other experts or competitors will appear there. So I mean several days before. And what you should really do is really check what everything is okay with the infrastructure list. So that's the protocol which I sign in Kazan. I mean, if we're doing the competition not of so international, uh, it's very often we don't have a special with such type of protocol. For example, if we're doing organizing a competition in Russia, but anyway, the chief expert, the first one who appear on the competition place, and the the chief expert is really responsible what's to the moment when competition starts. Everything is according to the infrastructure list. It could happen what's some force majeure. In that case, it should be really chief expert should ensure what each competitor has the same has the same conditions, competition conditions like any others. So there is no privilege one to another. So I mean, if one, for example, well, let's take one example. If, for example, it will be required what's in our competition place, each competitor will need to have 2 monitors, and on some reason, for example, there is for one competition place there is only 1 monitors. For that case, each e- uh, each the competitor place should have also only 1 monitor. So I mean, so just in that case, each competitor, each students will have the same conditions like any others. Okay, when I talk originally about documents, I wondering why the market scheme was not appear. Just because if we're talking really about the skill itself, we usually work on with these 3 or 4 documents. So technical description, you already saw it. It's test project and marking scheme. And the infrastructure list is something which should be really, it's you see it's even really in that chart is in the ground, just because it should ensure what everything we put in our test project, everything we put in marking scheme, uh, it could be really realized on the competition area. So I mean, in our case, that's it could be, for example, for example, in our during our training session, as you mentioned, originally I thought about Navisworks, but the test project is not required, so I excluded from, let's say, from infrastructure list. But if the test project required Navisworks, but it was not infrastructure list, in that case, the competitor could not use the tool just because it's not available. So it's mean it should be really accordance between infrastructure list and test project. So that is really important thing. So that is how that these 4 documents important to us is linked to each other. And as you see, the marking scheme is a gray area. Is the last which will be developed just because it's dependent from a technical description and from test project. So I mean, it's always reflect the test project. And for our skill camp, we also adapt the marking scheme. So we could not use the same marking scheme from Kazan because test project is different. The, let's say, technical description is different. So that's why it's always necessary, needs to be adapted to the test project and to current technical description. So that is really the principles. I would really make maybe one small break and ask, is any question so far? Could you write your question in chat, please? So I mean, it's no, I guess, question. So let's go further. So right now here you see this test project with blue square. Uh, you already had a chance, I hope, download this test project. But right now I will talk about principles of test project. So I mean, test project is really the task which describe the task which our competitor, or in our case for training camp, our students have to accomplish within the given time. So I mean, there are 2 types of test project. One called circulated and another is uncirculated or secret project. So the difference is very easy. So circulated project is usually more or less open project, which each participant, future participants is very okay. It's open. Each participant can train, etc. But during the first day, all experts has to agree about 30% changes, not less of 30% changes in the test project. So I mean, why what happens? Just because if the students will have the same project, it will be really the competition between the speed of the mouse click, etc. So that's why it does not work very well. And with 30% changes, it's minimum 30% changes. That is the requirement for uncirculated or open project. For example, in Russia, for our local competition, we use the circulated test project, and when we come to the competition venue, we already prepare with 30% changes. So we in our case we really change the locations, change the requirements to buildings, etc. But it's okay, it's we concerned about our local. Why it's really it's very works, it's very well works if you goal really to invite as much as possible competitor or potential competitor to your skills. Just because they could train in advance, they reduce their fear to come to the competition area. So that's why their readiness to participate is much higher, and their self-confidence is again much higher. It does not mean they will for sure succeed, just because with 30% changes could be really tricky, but it's as understood is not very good works if you have high level competition. So that's why on in Kazan it was uncirculated or secret task. That's why in Russia, for example, for several competition, for example, if we have a competition among the commercial companies, we again develop uncirculated or secret task, just because that situation when nobody knows what will be about, and that situation if every participant is in the same, let's say, situation, because nobody knows, and really in day before the competition or day in the first day they will see what they should to do. So as I understood, so I mean it's my guess, but my understanding is following what WorldSkills International is recommended to use uncirculated test project for the World Skills World Championship. So I guess so that's why I guess we should really be prepared. Okay, our students, our team should prepare to every possible shape of a task, and should really refers to the technical description. So that is what is really my suggestion to you. Okay. Okay, Jacek mentioned about infrastructure list. Okay, so I mean that is infrastructure list is usually developed for each, let's say, competition. So I mean usually that is different form, and usually it's always adapt to current competition. For example, in Russia, we have more or less standard standard of infrastructure list for the regional competition. So I mean for vocational schools, for colleges, it's typical one. So they just take and use it. But for the national final, we have to develop a much more advanced, just because for the smaller one, we really try to reduce requirements to the infrastructure. And maybe one very good hint to you, as our skill, BIM skill, requires only computers and requires, let's say, tables and chairs. That is the skill is very easy and good supported and perceived by any WorldSkills organization and any colleges, any universities. So I mean, when I in Russia come and propose to launch, and when one of the first question from the, for example, college administration will be how much worth your infrastructure list, and I just replied back, we need only computers. They're really feeling very excited about that, and they're very happy to launch our skills fair just because we could use computers which are already available in the colleges or whatever, and the chair and tables is very easy to gather. So I mean, so that's why I would really recommend what you will appoint what's for our skills. Only computer are required. So I mean, computer already have Windows software we are getting from Modesk for free. So that's why we don't need for really for competition, we don't need any additional investment from wayside. So that's why you could really launch it without any problem. Okay, so when we discuss about test project, about some words about the market scheme. Again, what is example? But again, it's again from, I guess, from this rapid prototyping. What you see, so you see there is so I just got it from example. Um, we each task will have this market scheme. It's adopted for the test project. There is some section which called sub criteria. So it's a set of the aspects. So I mean, a minimum assessment item. It's called aspect. You see in the middle. In here is example surface number 1, surface number 2, surface number 3. So I mean, what will be measured, and I guess for that skill is there any surface which according to the task, and it should has number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. From the left side, if you see aspect type, it's called objective, subjective judgment. So I mean, right now, that is a screenshot from the competition information system, which the acronym for that is CIS. And right now, in the last version in World Championship, it was changed the aspect type. Instead of O, it was M, measurement. He is from the previous version, it's objective, but it's been I will forward discuss with you different types, but in principles there are two of them. One is something which you can measure, and another of what we really can judge. If we really come to the right side, you see the extra aspect description. So I mean, here, for example, there is a reference here. The reference what's we right now measure. We in our market scheme will also have some kind of, let's say, explanation or clarification. What is it about? Okay, so I mean, and maybe the most important from our columns is the last one. It's called max mark. So I mean, you see here, every aspect has 0.50 points. So what does it mean? So if that aspect is here, so I mean, is objective or measurement. So I mean, they really measure, is there exist with surface number 1, these students will get 0.5 marks. And in the end of the day, the form is just edit all these marks if which we grant to the students, and show what, for example, for subcriteria A1, the students has certain marks awarded. So, I mean, I will show a little bit later this example because it's not very easy to explain. One very important marks. This assessment scheme is not visible to our students. So, I mean, they don't see this assessment scheme. We don't see this form. So, I mean, the second measurement and judgment marking forms, it's something which will be used on the competition place. for you to assess. So I mean, it does not have the full list of the aspects. It has only part of the aspects which you assess it right now. But all this information is not disclosed to our competitors, not in the beginning, not during, not after the competition. So that is really just for the experts. Okay, so I mentioned what there are two types. That is the last version from a skilled world championship, and here from a left side you see when the type of it's called measurement. So I mean, instead of objective, it's measurement, and the second is judgment. So I mean, it's probably clear what judgment we really should judge. So we, as experts, discuss, and each of us has the meaning. In measurement, it's really very clear aspects which really reflects is there that aspect here or not. If, for example, we could measure it, for example, the the level of the distance between two grids, for example, uh, we can really easy measure it into us. We could, for example, in our task, it could be really requirements what the grids should be set it up with certain steps. If our students did not follow that rules, and we measure it and we see, for example, what's this steps is not equal to requirements, it's mean we measured it and it's not uh, conformed to our requirements. In that case, the measurement will be zero. So yes or no. So I mean, no, it does not follow to the rules. If they really followed the requirements and they follow and each step is according to our requirements, it's yes. If we put yes, the students will get that marks which has this much mark score. For example, in our previous example, it was 0.5. So if it will be yes, he will get 0.5. If it will be no, he get 0. And judgment, it's different. For example, we will not have his judgment in our training park, training skill camp, just because it really requires discussion. It requires determination of expert who will assess it, and usually it happens to something which could not be measured. For example, in Kazan, we had judgment for a section when we assess rendering. So I mean, for rendering quality, sorry. So I mean, from one side, it's possible to set up some aspect for even for rendering, which could be perceived as measurement. But for example, if we're talking about the good perspective for the render, what is really very subjective item. So that's why it came to us to judgment. And for this, you see several rules how we rate it. So first of all, will be judged rate the judgment. After will be rate the measurement marks. And about marking teams. So you see 3+1. What does it mean? It means the following. So I mean, it's not only one expert who will assess all our competitors. There is a marketing team which will be select, and it consists of 3 experts. By its here we have 3+1, just because in world skills there is one rule: what's expert compatriot cannot assess his own competitor. So I mean, so that's why it's embedded procedure. What there is always the objective measurement, objective assessment. Just because, for example, if we, for example, let's say we were selected to judge, for example, me, Jacek and Leon, we were marking teams. And if we came to judgment or assessment to Russian competitor, in that case, I could not judge. In that case, that +1 expert will replace me during judgment of Russian competitor from Russian student. For example, that could be an expert from Ecuador, and he will step instead of me. And in that case, this person, this free person again, free person judge the Russian competitor. So when we will come to Taiwanese competitor, in that case, Leon will be stepped out of the marking team, and again, expert from Ecuador replaced him, and that will be goes for the all work which our students did. So I mean, for the training purposes, we will not do it, but on real competition, that's how the assessment process is going. And the last section is how the procedure is going. So I mean, we already discussed about measurement. It's yes or no, so it's very easy. About the judgment, during the wall skills, it's each member of marking team has, it's called flashcards, and you see there is scores from 0 to 3. So I mean, if, for example, like I mentioned an example, we assessing the quality of some render, and I am together with Jacek and with Leon in one team, we should really see in our own observe, and then we should really show this wheel card with marks how much we think it's worth. So I mean, let's say I will assess for 3, Jacek for 2, and Leon for 1. What happens in that case? Should we put 2? Um, it's good to imagine, but in reality, or for example, Leon, for example, put 0, for example, what he didn't like that render at all. So I mean, if in that case, what happens? It's not just counting the middle middle rate, so not 3 plus 1 plus 0 divide to 3. It will be really reassessment, because there is a rule what we should be not more than 2, or I guess even 1 point between the rating scores. So I mean, in that case, we should really check, we should really discuss why I think that is excellent and another expert think that is awful, and we will reassess again. If it's again happens, which will be so big difference, in that case, automatically the marketing team will be 100% changed, just because we could not agree about the quality of that particular aspect. So, but again, that is for the big competition. We will train the assessment procedure. We will not have a judgment, and yeah, that is really for you for really for the common understanding. I see several questions in my chat, so I will. For the measurement, we have either no, yes. So I mean, Leon, you're asking. So I mean, because it's measurement, everyone can measure. So I mean, if an aspect defined well, it will be no doubt what is aspect about. So I mean, that is really the difficulty of the assessment scheme, to create such assessment scheme when each aspect is 100% clear to each expert. I mean, that is very difficult task. But measurement, it's mean is it there or not? 3 plus 1 is a team. So I mean, it's not only one person who judge what's really 3 person simultaneously see. And for example, if I on mistake choose, as I made example, for different grid, 2 hours can mention, yeah, you see, you got wrong grid. So in that case, yes, that's real procedure built when we can get more objective results of our judgment. Okay, the question from Luis about the okay, principles of judgment. Uh, what we have, uh, Um, we have points. Each aspect, okay, according to the WorldSkills rules, could not have more than 2 points. So I mean that is really a restriction. There is 2 additional recommendations, and that is what we should be no less than 75 aspects and not more with 250 aspects. So I mean, if we will have 2 marks maximum for each aspect, so I mean, it is really very on the competition area. It's very okay. It's each aspect worth to get. So I mean, where if they have different marks, the competitor or students do not know how many marks they get if they do this or that. So that's why it's additionally very tricky question or topic to them. So that's why we really try to do as much as possible. Okay, okay. Pranvir asked about tolerance. So, I mean, there is a tolerance. So I mean, we have Um, we okay. Usually, it's described in assessment which tolerance could be. So I mean, it's really, for example, it can be plus minus 2 millimeters or whatever. But usually, if we're talking about beam skills, we more or less can measure very sharp because we have computers. So I mean, usually, I cannot, honestly speaking, remember if we did some kind of tolerance because uh, even in Russian ball skills or international. So usually the aspects will be defined. So okay, at least in our skills, what can be really very clear and 100% without any doubt to measure it. For example, thicknesses, we can really measure without any problem. So I mean, that is possible, but in our skills, okay, I did not saw so far any examples which very valid to our skills. For the expert who deal with welding or with bricks building or whatever, that is always, I guess, each aspect has this tolerance. In our case, I guess I didn't yeah, saw any such cases. Okay, so going forward, so I mean, maybe additional yeah example judgment. So I mean, it's exactly what I mentioned before. 0 judgment if it's not, it's very bad, and 3, okay, honestly speaking, there were even description in previous rules for the world skills, and they define 3 for judgment as above the as really as a world level standard. So I mean, even with marks for 3, they define such way. Uh, but I guess for the last world championship, they really little bit change it. But usually that with this description definition is given in the competition rules, and that's why if we will go to, okay, if I go to any competition even in Russia, I always download the competition rules uh, before I even really go there, just because all this definition, all these particularities are defined there, and before I go, I really has to know what the rules will be used, how we define scores, etc. There is maybe Pranve, maybe to your question, there is interesting opportunities or options if we're talking about measurement marks. For example, and I will think we will have it in our case for our task during the skill camp. For example, there is a measurement marks. It's called discrete marking. What does it mean? For example, let's say we will in our task we will have, for example, uh, we will ask to create 5 grids, and students could develop no one, or could do 1 grid, 2 grids, or 3 grids, or 5 grids, and we could do the following. We can, for example, if we will put the maximum mark is 1, but we can award for each grid which students did 0.5 marks. What does it mean? So I mean, we can really count how many grids the students did. So in that case, we could really differentiate. So not either or, but we could really put the marks of, let's say, awarding the participants for the amount of work he did, if it was really did correctly, for example. So that's why if the person did 100%, he did the maximum mark, let's say in our case 1. If the person did only, let's say, 3 of 5, he will get 0.6 marks. So in that case, we will really differentiate. In that case, for example, I think that is very useful to us. As I mentioned before, WorldSkills principles to create a task which will be very difficult or close to impossible to do into the given time. So that's why if we will really provide some, let's say, reward to our students who did something, for example, let's say this way, we should, yeah, okay, not very key. A very good example for our skills, but let's say the students did 4 stock, 4 floors of on 5. So, and if he did very correctly to what we required, we award him for these 4 floors which he already did. So, okay, so maybe some additional comments about marking scheme, and we will go forward. So I mean, that's again something, some rules which was used during the last World Championship. So the teams went with and had only one marking form. So I mean, when the team with assessment team, marking team went to assessment, I as a chief expert just print to them only one form. So would still be no some kind of faults, what's they used wrong form, etc. So I gave them one form, and they started to circle through the competition place. It's possible, for example, if in big skills, if it will be many competitors, so it will be very difficult to assess with one assessment team every participant and every sub criteria. So that's why it could be developed several marking team, and we could really divide the task. One marking team will assess one sub criteria, the second will be the second sub criteria, the third sub criteria. In that case, it will be just go faster. So because they will work parallel, and they will assess only their part of their assessment. So, and the last one, what marketing team will mark all competitors. So I mentioned if we, for example, marketing team starts to go, and this example which I mentioned to you, if they will have to judge, for example, and they will be not agreed more or less, there is a difference between us within the expert how much they reward, and if one will reward the free, the highest level, and the one will be continue to reward the zero, so nothing. In that case, the same this marketing team will be changed to another one, and this new marketing team will start again, start from zero to assess from the beginning. So it's not will continue using the mark which this replacing team already did. They will start it again, because they could probably have a little bit different understanding, but we will need to use the same understanding to assess all competitors. So that's why it's again, in our case, it could happen. And if, for example, this dispute about marks was on the last in the last team or last competitor, the new market team has to start from the beginning. So how it works? Okay, I guess I finish right now the part for the for this marking, for this which is a little bit difficult to discuss without having any examples, but maybe I would ask if any questions so far. Because I see you writing question to me, I try to answer them. Please write down if you have any additional questions. William. So I see no questions. So I mean, in that case, we come to the, let's say, to the next. It's right now will be not theoretical, but it will be more funny practical one. So I mean, I will show to you several documents which we as experts has to dealing to sign during the first day. So I mean, the first documents is really what we appear on the competition area. So that is by way from Kazan, and you see the names of our experts. So that is here. The second, what we really got the health, safety, and environment training rules. It's again we will sign it, and again the competitor and expert will get and sign a similar form for each day. So I mean, so that's why you don't worry. You will have if you will be chief expert, rather many paperwork. So I mean, after it's again that's it's protocol called about formalization with a test project and assessment criteria. And if it will be a circulated project, it will be with after 30% of changes, because this 30% of changes will has to be reflect on the assessment on marking scheme. So it's again we sign. Then marking form formalization, again what we understood what is about. And I would mention here, you see on that last form, we raised here, it's called time stamp on bills. You see, what does it mean? It means the world skill has its own information system, with SIS it's called, and this marking scheme has to be uploaded into system, and it should be logged. So I mean, as it will be logged, that form will put a time stamp. So I mean, it's really clear stated the time, date when the market form was not just entered into the system, but the time when it was logged. So I mean, if it will be logged, that means no changes could be appeared in the market scheme. So I mean, so that's why as far as it will be logged, Each expert will sign what he will really knows, what this timestamp was logged on that day, on that minutes, and that will be valid for the full competition. So some form like formalization does not have times for them just because it confirms what you as an expert had a chance to read, understand, discuss. That form is really has a time stamp just because it confirms what the assessment criteria is really logged, and all the through the next day, all we will leave and assess our competitors using the agreed marking form. And the last documents which we sign in, it's called about our roles distribution for the competition. So I mean, if we're talking about really roles at WorldSkills, there are many different roles. I made a special appendix here. I will not show it to you, but it's some kind snapshot from this competition rules. And for example, we all here are experts, and there is description who we are, what is our responsibility, what's our right, etc. There is additional roles like chief expert, and there is additional explanation. What does it mean, chief expert? What his responsibility for? What his rights and rules? There is deputy chief expert. It's again in our roles. So that you will find in the end of that presentation, but there is really special marks that can change in Shanghai just because it's documents with WorldSkills usually updates, and it can be really sometimes it's the changes are very okay, we change a lot. But for here, what we have, it's our roles within our skill. So I mean, here, for example, I didn't had before the deputy chief expert, for example, just because we were in the future skills area and only a chief expert was appointed. So during our competition, we agreed who will be my deputy. It was Liana from Singapore, by the way. So I mean, I was responsible for CIS system. So I mean, if I was responsible for the second line for entering the marks into the information system. We had nobody who was responsible for site technical support just because we were a special dedicated person from the venue who was responsible, who was on our side, but he is not an expert, so we didn't put him here just because we had this role was outsourced to the local staff. Again, Pavel Olaf Novak from Poland was responsible for health and safety. Gordon, it's an expert from Ireland, was responsible for contact with visitor and the press. And during the competition, I would also mention what to us it was one of very important task to engage with PR, with press, just because the more we will write about our skills, the more really coverage, the more awareness about our skills will we get. So that's why this PR stuff is very important. And you see on the end, we have several names. It was Pavel Olaf Novak, Gordon, Daria. Daria was from Belarus. They were appointment for this assessment team. So I mean, so that's three of them was appointed to this main assessment form, and we really change them with all of any other three experts if we, for example, will come to assessment of Polish team, Irish team, or Belarus team. So how it works. So what is a common part which I did so far. Right now, we're coming slowly to our most interesting part, which is about our skill camp, about our test project and marketing scheme. And I would like ask you any questions which you have so far, according with, let's say, common stuff about the documents, about the procedures, about our role as expert on the competition area, about the judgment. So please write down, because we right now coming to the next stage. And again, I would ask if suddenly we have some students on the call, please disconnect, because that will be really start something what you should get information during the competition day. So, and before we'll come to the next next stage again. Yeah, there is one. I see one question is appeared. Okay, Leon asked about the choosing the assessment expert. So I mean, Leon, usually each expert is expert compatriot. So I mean, each expert has some competitor with country competitor. So that's why it's really just discussion among the experts who are there. There is really some kind depend. For example, there is different rules. For example, according to Russian rules, if I'm a chief expert, I am not able to judge. In wall skills, it is possible to judge. So I mean, but usually that is really just discussion among the expert. So we don't have many competition on the global level. The only one which we have was in Kazan, and it was only 5 teams. So it was relatively easy to us to discuss and agree. So I mean, that if it will be critical, we could even make some kind of wheel draw. So I mean, there are different options to do it, but in principles, some of experts might want to assess, some of them might don't want to assess. So, I mean, that is so there is no clear procedures. Okay, it was not, let's say, maybe the Volsky threshold will change something for Shanghai, but so far it was no procedures about how the assessment team will be choose. Usually, that the initial recommendation will come from the skill competition team. And skill competition team, it consists of skill competition manager. So it's mean in our case, it's Malachi Matthew from Ireland, and chief expert and deputy chief expert. So I mean, they will, let's say, propose to all expert some recommendation. For example, that recommendation about the original roles distribution, I really just okay proposed. So I mean, I can't remember if everyone was agree or not, but in principle, that's how it works so far. Okay, so no more questions. So I mean, okay, so I will start with again with one slide, and after Anna will follow up with her question. So I mean, I just get okay. Leon just thank me. So I mean, I shared with you with three test projects. So I mean, that is honestly speaking the same but I divided it into 3 parts. So, and why? So, I mean, if you would like to see the full task, you can just have a look on the day 4. So it contains all previous parts. Why I did it? I did it under the following reason. If we have a real competition on the competition area, we usually print out this task, give to the competitors, to our students, and on the end of the day, we all leave these documents on the competition area. So I mean, uh, we for sure can look forward, maybe remember something to think over overnight, but all this description, what we should do next day, will be left on the competition area. In our case, we initially did the full task, but realized what several students wanted to go faster. We got some question, could we start to go to do next day or next part of a job during, if we will finish earlier. So I mean, so that's why we decided to split it into 3 parts. But in principles, it's split following what's for the first day, for example, for the coming first part of the work, you will give them this day 1 test project. It's just a part of a big task which has contain all necessary information for the first day. When we will come to the next day training, you will give them this day 2 day free part, because it has task, and as you will remember, we will have on Wednesday, let's say, self training day, when we should improve the models to the level, to the to requirements in our task. So that's why it will be valid for 2 days. And for the last day, you will give them that last section. So that is how it works. But please do not give to them this test project before the competition day. Okay, I just see there are several questions. Yeah, Leon, right. I also thought about this. I did not, yeah, when we started what will be YouTube, one what they will miss drawing. So I mean, we will have a training hub camp. So that option is here, you're right. But again, for assessment procedure, so that's why I ask here during each slide, what if students are there, please disconnect, just because it's training, and in that case we will not provide the feedback about the skills, about the knowledge in a fair manner. So that's why I mentioned about code of conduct, ethics and conduct, just because if we really will follow that rules, we will, even if we will look in CVAS link, they will not do it. So I mean, that is really just, let's say, a moral obligation, which I hope they will do it. Okay. Okay. So about the students, so I mean, ask me your question. So I mean, they will, okay, we will talk about that with about common data environment later, but in principle, we should really provide to you result of the work for, let's say, for this given piece of task, because you will assess your own students and you have to have that part of information to assess. So without that, without having that information, you will not could not access. When I talked yesterday about skill passport, it's only the final model. So I mean, during the competition, you will work with them directly. So we will not cover that. It's really your personal work. So I mean, Is there any question, or I will give in that case the floor to Anna? So I mean, if you will have question, you can really write down, but in that case, Anna will take over. Anna, maybe you will you step in, or I just think should we have a break? How you think?
As you want.
Okay, so dear experts, if you can you really just do the following. If you want to have a break, 5 minutes break, can you write down in our chat the plus sign? So I don't see any pluses. Oh yeah, it comes. Okay, sorry. Yeah, sorry. Okay, Bruna, Panver. Yeah, okay, must be. Okay, dear colleagues, we'll have a 5 minutes break. I don't prepare. Okay, so in that case, we will meet. So right now it's 3:41 p.m. Moscow time. So we will hear back and 3:40 p.m. Moscow time. So in that case, we will have 9 minutes break. So 9 minutes break. I will write here. Okay. Dear experts, let's come back. It's some seconds before our start. So right now, Anna is taking over the management of our meeting. Anna, please, your turn. You can unmute your microphone. Great.
Hello. Hello, everyone. I would like to speak with you about our test project. So here in our test project, we have some parts. First part is about introduction of our skill, about BIM, and all the things I think that you know, and we talked about it yesterday. Second part is about World Skills Standards specification, general notes here. And the most interesting part for us, description of the task. Our task consists of 4 modules, and it includes such things as architectural modeling, common data environment, detailed drawing, model coordination, modification of a model, and that's all. So here is the list of them. Model 1, work organization and management, modeling, drawing, BIM coordinator, correction model. And the marks for the days. In the first day, we do the BIM coordination and previous settings, and the full marks for the day will be 12.40. The next day, modeling, and it's 47.18, and other days here. And our third day, drawing, BIM coordination, corrective modeling, and the scores for the days. Next step, project description. What will we do? We will do the model of two-story building. It consists of 4 sections, and our participants will have drawings for this building. There will be plans, facets, and 3D view. Also, they will have plans in DVG, the first floor and the second floor. Here is our software, we discussed it yesterday. If you have, you can use the BIM 360, but it's recommended and not required. Autodesk Revit, and so that's all. Here is written about very important part, naming of the project and all parts in the project. We recommend our competitors and our students to use right names for their families, for all the parts we use in our project. It's important for working, for sharing our work, and when we export our file to another software such as Unity or Unreal Engine, the right name of our elements is very important. So here are the examples. How should they name them, the naming rules? Please pay attention for your participants for this part. And now the task, module 1. This part, our participants will do in the first day. Sources materials, project templates, we discussed that it will be architectural templates, which include in Revit, and so they will have sample project in drawing and the drawing in DVG format. If you have a BIM 360, you can use it. But the main part is here. First time you create a coordinated file, pay attention for axes and levels, and for the coordination of the base point and the grids. Here is written how they should be. Then here is creation architectural file, and next step, creation of family library. Important thing that on the first day, they should create all the families they need. Here is in the table is showing that must be windows, single casement window, double casement, triple casement, and with balcony door. We can do it in one family with some and change this parts, and we also can do 4 different families. You can use one day or another way. Next family that they should do doors, interior door, exterior door, and furniture. We will give some families with furniture, and so the participants should only rename them and publishing the result. The result of the day will be model, will contains all families, so it should contain grid with axis and the coordinate, the right coordination of the base point. So you should assess it yourself by the file that they will give to you in BIM 360 or another way. Next day, module 2 is Modella. So on first day, we prepared all the parts, all families that we will need. And in this day, we only do our model. So we recommend to put all the items, all the instance to the working sets. Here is recommended names, but in Revit, in base, called them in another way, and you should rename them. As I know, in Russian version, we have another working sets. Here is additional information for some parts. It's curtain walls category, which should be done in this day. And other information about doors, floors, furniture, railings, stairs, rooms, roofs, and all other parts. Please pay attention for the walls. Important that load-bearing wall must be in one layer and another part in the another layer of the wall. And here is windows. Publishing the results is the same as in the first model. It could be done in BIM 360 environment or only the Revit file. Next day, the third day, will be free for our participants, but in the day they should complete their model, do it as well as it pointed in the task. Their model must be the same as in our example. It's very important for another models because next day I will show you, they will do everything on this model we have. Our fourth day, 3 models in this day. They are not difficult. The first model is make drawing. The drawing must consist of total information, sheet of total information, and list of underground floor, floor 1, floor 2, roof, sections, and facades. They could use the drawings as they want. the scale of reviews they can do by themselves and they choose by themselves, as it will be good for demonstrate the architecture of the building. So it's not required only one scale or another scale, and they can choose it by themselves. Publishing is the same, the results. We don't need to export it to such a format as PDF. We will access the file from the Revit file. So next task will be to check the model. So there must be done checking of the remarks. Each competitor should check the warnings, errors in the model and elements, any and all that we can eliminate. So also should pay attention for the clash detective and publish the results even the same way as the day before. And our fifth model is corrective modeling. So they will make changes in the model, but it's just a secret part. You will do the things that should be changed the next time. I think before the day, because it's very important to be surprised for all of us, for our participants and for experts either. And so after that, we will have a full completed model and then publish the result. Also, they ask you to send to us the final model in Autodesk Revit and IFC formats. So that's all in general about our task. And now I'll show you the building. Just a minute. So we have 4 plans: the underground floor, the basement, the first floor, second floor plan, and the roof plan. Now 2 sections, and another one, and the facades. So here is 3D view of a building. Such a documentation will be given to your participants. And that's all about our test project. And shall we discuss Martin's scheme now?
Anna, there is several questions in our chat. Could you probably have a look there?
Okay. Just a minute. About families, such families as windows and doors must be made in Revit, and another families we will give to participants and they will modify them. Yes, about the collision detection, I mean the Revit building collision detection. It's Revit building checking about this. And now I can show you in our test project this part about the detection, collision detection. and we can discuss it. Here it is. So the competitors should check themselves the collision, and then in the final model there mustn't be any collisions, and perhaps you can recheck it by yourself as an expert. And in this part of the task is mean the check detection, including in Revit. Publishing result in BIM 360 is optional. You can do it if you have BIM 360 and not do if you don't. It's about this. About special requirement to IFC expert. No, there is no special requirement because the expert to IFC expert or the IFC format is not assessed. It's not part of our competition. It's an additional task, and no special requirement for it. All competitors need to. I think about expert to IFC, Alexei will answer better than I. Alexei, please help me in this point.
Okay, so I mean, honestly speaking, that will appear recently just when it comes to a question about the skill passport. So we can check it, Jacek, and we'll provide. So I mean, that is really the last day, and we don't have any judgment. It's really just requirements to provide with IFC file additionally with Revit.
Did I answer all questions for now?
I guess Leon right now asked about the capital in smaller letters. About naming convention and the grades for
Capital
that.
or small, I think it's not important part about the letters, capital or lower. So the important thing is to put the name according to the types of families, and so not use some symbols. It's written in the test project, because there could be some mistakes. It's the problem not by creators, but from the Revit. So some symbols mustn't be used in naming. That's mean. It's a good question about work set. Of course, I agree with you with when you are work alone, the work set is not important for us, but it's a part of skill. That's why we have this point in our test project.
Maybe I would also add, Jacek, so you see, as we discussed also yesterday, several aspects which we would like have in our task. For example, we don't use any scripts, etc. It's again, it's focus of the education of the really skills as deep skills in BIM. So I mean, in real life, we really use many scripts. We use preloaded families, etc. Right now, we really have to assess the skills. So that's why we have no automation at all for that part. But it's part of our. It's a goal. Anna, there was another question from ASME about any our common data environment suggestion.
About, I didn't understand.
Okay,
About
so I mean, okay, so my understanding, so I mean, maybe it's from ASME from Tunisia, but you should really find some system which is convenient to you. So I mean, it can vary if your students will work with you in one college or in one vocational schools or remotely. So I mean, but it's no suggestion. It's really make something which is you familiar with or your students familiar with. Jesper, please send us your question. I would tell the following. We already did the testing, so before we submitted to you, we did it with some random group of students. So I mean, it's really a balanced task for our skill camp, for our environment when we work remotely, when we work alone. So that's why we don't have not all modules which are in the technical description we will have here. We try to pick the most appropriate one, the most important one. So, and if we talk about the BIM 360, you see there is here in the task there are several recommendations just because we have in mind the Shanghai, but we are not assessing that criteria. So I mean, we just not exclude that part from our task. We leave it there just because if it will be the full skills competition, what will be a task. Okay, from Chris' question about timeline, deadline, submission of the. So, Chris, the question is the final medal. So, I mean, we will have on Friday, next Friday, our, let's say, it's finish of the competition, and I would expect what by closing ceremony by Saturday 1st, we'll got this model uploaded. Because I guess in that day you will already finish with assessment. Your students will finish with assessment, so that is really just really to upload. Is there any other questions so far? So I would maybe, Anna, thank you very much. I think if question will appear, we are here ready to answer. Maybe I will touch another topic about training organization. We already right now comes to that topics, and I will share just a second to training organization. Can you see my screen? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, great. Thank you. So I would really mention what we right now taste about. Oops, sorry. We will have a training camp, and so that's why we have right now many flexibility and variety in our organization. So your question from about when we should submit your final is again, we expect what we will get off all artifacts from our skill camp by the end of our competition. Another topic which I saw from your question direct to me was about when students has to submit their task or part of a task to you. So that is very easy to answer. So I mean, we will have jointly training session from Monday to Friday, but we will talk about assessment from Monday to Thursday. So all these days will we at 2 p.m. Will host this joint expert session where we will pick up some of let's say Russian participants' work, and we will discuss and jointly assess. So I mean, what does it mean for you? You have a freedom to discuss and agree with your participants, with your students, most appropriate schedule, which suits mostly to you. So I mean, we will upload, I guess, today. Today we will upload the all drawings, all models, and in principle, tomorrow after the briefing with your students, you could already give them a task and let them to do first task, which has to be complete within 3 hours. So I mean, it's up to you to agree which procedure you will choose to keep track with hours, but I would really recommend what you will provide with task, with drawing just before the competition, just before the start of the training time, and really fix this 3 hours time when we should upload or deliver, or how you agreed the result file to you. So but could really, you could store it and give immediately the second part of the task. So I mean, that is really the important things. What they will finish the one part, deliver every deliverables to you. You will fix it. That's all, and only after that, after the agreement of what's they were ready to come in to next stage, and I would remember what the second stage will last for 4 hours. You will give this 4 hours start, and after in 4 hours they will upload the result to you. So I mean, very important what you will keep provide the task just before the next round, and you get exactly the result, the deliverables exactly in the after at the end of a portion of a training portion. So I mean, it's you could really organize this way. What tomorrow they could if they are ready to spend 10 hours of doing, provide even this completed task, and after during that session you will assess it, but I would not recommend that. So I mean, the main thing is really you could work on your sequence. You can even just initially watch of assessment and only then give it to your students. Maybe that will be the option for Brazilian participants or Ecuadorian participants just because of time difference. So it's, you don't have to run before. You could watch tomorrow, or sorry, in day after tomorrow, joint session. Maybe in that case you will better understand the task and give it to your participants. We same for everyone. We especially will run that with Russian students. What we will have some examples how much we did within with time frame, and we will jointly assess that examples. But it's for you could really change your own schedule. Important thing, what you will provide as the marks which you grade to your students, and we could put that marks into the system, because this skill camp will also inherited the total amount of marks which they will get through that exercise. So, I mean, if you will not deliver in time that data to us, we have to use some information which was delivered to us. So, I mean, if it will be not delivered, so I don't know, they will not get this skill pass. It's not good. So, to me, I think if you doing, but we use this opportunity and to really provide that data to us initially after you assess this assessment marking form and after the models delivered to us. Um, I would also mention about this about really keeping very strict with 3 hours or 3 or 4 hours time frame, just because then, okay, in our life, our students, when they don't have any time limits, they're really relaxed and they think they know everything, for they could find where they can find an internet, etc. But if we're talking about really competition, if we have in mind the world championship, that could be very good exercise to taste and to understand how good they knowledge, they skill, just because it's really time constraint, and really show their strengths and weaknesses. So that's why I would really recommend you to motivate them, having that approach, what they could really assess themselves, they could really emulate some competition, and probably, I guess tomorrow I will show to competitors, to our students, uh, some, let's say, videos from a competition area, what we will know, what's in real competition. It will be much more pressure, not just because time is ticking, but also because they will be on the competition area, and it will be many participants who are passing nearby. So they will be in competition, but for normal people, what will be show? So normal people coming to see the best of the best from the world, who came to Moscow, to Kazan, to Sao Paulo, or will come to Shanghai, and that will be really very noisy. That will be very the journalist could really somehow come to make a photos, and um, it happens what we have to protect our competitors from some noisy, let's say, paparazzi, who would wanted to do a good a photo. So that's why it's, yeah. So that's why right now we will have very comfort situation. But if we will have in mind the world championship, that is really the first step ahead. So I see where is now. Okay. Yes. So I guess I also talk that. Okay, I guess already I already told it to you, common data environment. So okay, it looks what's I already told it to you. Then let's go forward and we go to the next steps. Next steps is very easy. Again, someone who are not sure your students are prepared, please be sure they have a proper software. We discuss with them working without scripts, without plugins. Ensure we have a we will use a standard Revit templates which is delivered with the Revit. We even recommend, okay, again for test purposes, if your students are able to use English version, okay, it's again, it's in case if they would like to test with themselves and test how, okay, the starting point will be during the next week, how they are ready, okay, right now to go to Shanghai. So that's why if they will set up the really the environment according to the to what will be in Shanghai on World Championship, that will be the most really useful to them if we really have a plan to go ahead. So secondly, again, your question about common data environment, it's up to you. So I mean, through your question, I understood what some students, some will have an access there. For example, if I reflect in back last year, the Singaporean students had an access, sorry, to BIM 360. So that's why we help many countries to connect with either Odesk partners or local partners who provided that access for students for training in ahead. I understood looking through your chats, the Senai from in Brazil have this access to BIM 360. We in Russia is negotiating with one commercial partner, which is a partner of Autodesk, to providing this access to BIM 360 to Russian participants. So how it works. If you don't have, it's no problem. We are not assessing that. Just use the system which is will be really known to your student and will be easier to you to assess. Communication, it's clear. Yeah, that's what we will have. And tomorrow we'll have similar, okay, similar, it's been special session with the students. Part of that conversation will be again about some common stuff. We will not come so deeply into the assessment. We will not come deeply so much to the stuff which we will not touch at all, but we will really discuss about the, the competition, about the task, common stuff, etc. So that's how it will be. And for the next step, we all wait for you to join our session on Monday. I will after our call tonight, I will provide you with invitation to our Zoom link. I guess if I'm right, it will be no translation from English to Chinese unless you will provide. Okay, we'll agree with your interpreter what they will join. I will try to set up the Zoom invitation, what it will enable that functionality if we will have an interpreter. So that's, I guess, all from what I would like wanted to share with you. Is any other question so far? You see, I don't see any question, but I mean, before we will say goodbye to each other, I would like to have a greeting from another experts, from the experts from Ireland. It's Gordon Chris Holm, and why I would like to have his greeting, just because he was the expert from the Irish team which won the first our BIM championship last year in Kazan. So that's why that is really, he will comes to Shanghai. He will train with the Irish team, and I guess that is, yeah, I think that is important what we all have with greeting from that.
Morning, good evening, good afternoon, in whichever part of the world you're listening from. I like to welcome all you experts from countries taking part in the skills camp. It's great to see the interest in building information modeling across the world and developing, and the chances of each of your countries running national competitions under the World Skills banner. It's a great organisation. In Ireland, we have run 2 national competitions so far. We're preparing for our 3rd, and it is incredible to see how our young students get involved and the benefits to get from it, the work hard and the knowledge and experience to gain from it. For you guys as experts, yeah, you're going to gain a very lot from it. You're going to be marking, which is going to be fun, and you will see the development, and hopefully they bring through that skill level into your institutes and your colleges and through into the workplace. It's very important, and I think through World Skills, certainly what we have done is linked in with industry, and that connection with industry brings its own benefits in terms of seeing how they operate and how that can help develop your students. So look, enjoy this time. I know Alexei has put a lot of hard work in putting this together for you, and all the best.
So that was Gordon Chrisholm, and I guess I personally like this person. It's as I mentioned to you, we had in Kazan very good communication, very trustful environment, very professional environment, and Gordon was one of that experts there. And I really, from my side, very thank Gordon for his impact to us. So that's all what I wanted to for now to share with you in this presentation, which I upload to our folder. We will have this appendix, but it's really just for your information. For example, who is competitor, and what you see, it's exactly refers to, for example, 6.1 to 4:2 to the rules from the last World Championship in Kazan. But for example, what does it mean from that part? What it will be, for example, age limitation. So I mean, for we will comes to this 25 years old age limitation, as it's also described in our technical description. And if BIM will be official, our BIM name of our skill will appear also here. So that's, for example, for reference, for information. So here there are many roles, description, etc. For example, next will be a team lead, etc. But right now it's just for your information. What you could look through. For us, the most important is competitor, an expert, and maybe chief expert. But only 3 roles which will be as interesting for you. Ricardo, all that our recording is right now we're broadcasting to YouTube, so it's already available there. You can really have it. About the PDF DVG families, I guess we right now will check that again. The let's say fullness of what all sets, family, etc. And we will provide you before. So I guess you all will have that information tomorrow. We have to recheck it again. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Kai Wenjing, sorry if I did not uh, pronounce your name correctly about software in English. So I mean, we recommend what your students will use English version, but it's again, if you there is different, let's say, goals of you and your students to participate in that competition. Exactly like we have in Russia, vocational schools, it's the aim what we will improve education. So that's why the even expectations and requirements are low. But if you have in mind your students is very strong enough to go to potentially go to Shanghai, I would recommend you use English. If you really have the goal, for example, to somehow teach or introduce BIM to your vocational schools, you can use it in Chinese version, it's no problem. So I mean, it's again up to you. I would recommend to raise the bar if they able to take that approach. But again, if it will really if we will not go until the end, it will be better if we have the tools in the language they will comfortable to do. So that is really the recommendations, not the requirements. On the competition stage, if we will talking about World Championship, according to World Skills International, working English, working language is English, and that have let's say more priority. If, for example, it's possible to use interpreter who will interpret translator who will translate the task to Chinese, to Russian, to Portuguese, whatever. But the English version has really the highest priority. So that's why I would really, for example, in Russia, we for last year the knowledge of English was one of selection criteria to build our team. So I mean, but for the local level, what we don't talk about any English, and so that's why for part of our students who will participate, well, will be very huge challenge, and that students will be from vocational school. Okay, so I just check if I missed some information. So maybe Ricardo, I will again, if you will check our chat, Anna put in there this link to YouTube. I already saw our recording yesterday, and I'm wondering what's yesterday. Okay, in 5 hours after finish of our event, we have 180 views. So I mean, it's very huge. So I mean, that is even more than we have participants. So that's why you can really go there and look there, and or you can really share it with your other experts or your colleagues. So that is free, and that is already available there. So is there any other questions? Oh, thank you. So I don't see any question yeah, coming. So in that case, I first of all, please use what's prepare with your students something what I would suggest you will really prepare. Please ensure your students attend tomorrow's session because they for sure have many questions, and maybe what we will try to do tomorrow with Anna, what's a way fair to participate in the competition. We will try to motivate them to go until the end, even if they, for example, will have problems on the first day with their families. So that usually many students just download from internet, but we'll really try to do our best to motivate them to what they will participate, they will try, we will keep going in spite of a time limitation, in spite of finding some areas which we don't know, but will be our goal. And for our side, we will upload the drawings, we will upload families, and you will download. And again, please make sure about setting up with students the agreed with them the schedule, give them only appropriate part of the task. So I mean, the first day, it's what I mentioned, day 1. For the second day, which I called day 2 to 3, and for the last day, the day 4. That will be really the full task. And we will also will give this secret task. So I mean, as Anna mentioned, we especially also prepared that. It's very small, but again, that is what will be worth if we will not see at all. So as Leon mentioned, we have a broadcast to YouTube, so some of them could have an access and see it, but they didn't saw the drawing. And this task, I would really prefer what we will really do a real secret task, and we will. It's not big, but if they do correctly, if they have a good understanding and habits of using BIM and parametric modeling, they will do it very easy. If not, in that case, we will assess their skill in that case. So in that case, good luck. Looking forward for your students and looking forward to see all of you on Monday at 2 p.m. Moscow time. I will send to you another Zoom link. And dear Chinese participants, if you will able to arrange interpreter, please let me know. I will try to set up the Zoom meeting in the mode which enables translation as well. So in that case, good luck. Enjoy your holiday, and we will with Anna will continue to work on the BIM skills, and we will meet all of you on Monday. Bye.
Bye-bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Have a nice week. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. 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 Then.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
See
Bye.
you
Bye.
Monday.
See you.
中午130号，鉴赏艺术。
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.